Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a look at another card, which has been, well, let's just say my sources in Japan have hooked me up. As always, I cannot prove to you 100% this is definitely coming. I cannot show you an image of the card, and there is a possibility that we either don't get it or we get a different version of it. My sources have been very reliable so far, but let's be honest with you, that is a possibility. But I trust it enough to make a video on, so hopefully you can trust me. It is Team Yell Grunts. Now, we need Team Yell Grunts. Team Yell are the bad team from Sword and Shield. All they ever really do is just follow around your rival and cheer for her. Like, as far as evil schemes go, cheering for the person who's trying to beat you is not the most evil thing we've ever heard. But we had a Team Flare Grunt card. And we had a Team Skull Grunt card, as well as a bunch of others. It is only fair... A Team Plasma Grunt, there we go. It is only fair that we get ourselves a Team Yell Grunt. And given a Team Flare Grunt was an energy denial card, and Team Skull Grunt was an energy denial card, you might be thinking, well, what's he? Is this just not going to be an energy denial card? Yes. It definitely is an energy denial card. According to my source, what it does is choose an energy card attached to your opponent's active Pokemon and return it to your opponent's hand. You choose one of their energy, you put it back in their hand. That's it. Oh. Okay. I'll be honest with you, these new Sword and Shield cards that we've been hearing rumours of over in Japan, they've all been really good up to now. This is, oh goodness, how many have we done? This is number 6 now. I know, my source is coming through. And the other 5 have all been, like, really good and should see a fair bit of play. This is, well, it's really underwhelming, if I'm honest with you. No, it's not terrible, but it's not particularly great. I mean, it's a neutered version of Team Flare Grunt. Team Flare Grunt discards an energy card attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. This takes an energy attached to them and puts it back into their hand. It's not as good. Like, it's just flat out objectively not as good. Now, there are always exceptions, but generally speaking, no, this is not as good. Now, I will say there are certain times where you want the energy in your opponent's hand rather than in the discard. So, Malamar can accelerate energy from the discard, as can Naganadel. So if you discard their energy, they can just reattach it using those Pokemon. So putting it in their hand is better for getting it away from them. Cool. Now, there is one other example I can think of, and do let me know if there's any others you can think of in the comment section, but Alolan Executor. Alolan Executor, and we did actually get both a dragon and a grass version of them, take your pick, does more damage for each type of basic energy in the discard pile, up to an extra 100 damage for 5 different types of basic energy. So discarding the basic energy would potentially fuel their attack. Hopefully you could discard one that's the same colour that's already in the discard, but you don't always have that option. So look, there are ways and examples whereby discarding the energy is worse, but generally speaking, it's not. What you're doing is putting the card in your opponent's hand. And I suppose you're cluttering up their hand. Maybe if they're relying on cards like Lily, for instance, that draws until you've got X number of cards in your hand, or something like Miss Magius, what you can do is put an extra energy in their hand, so that when they use Miss Magius, they're actually drawing one fewer card. In fact, one great example here is actually Granbull. Now, Granbull doesn't see much play lately, and I have been working far harder than I should to try and make this good. I don't think it is at the moment. But Granbull needs to have 0 cards in hand. They can only attach 1 energy during their turn. So if you put an energy in their hand and then they've already got one or they draw into one, you could make it so they cannot empty their hand. But my point here is that all of these examples I'm giving you of ways that Team Yell Grunt is better than Team Flare Grunt, these are all examples which are really specific. These are not your everyday examples. Now, the other thing to remember here, you can use Lieutenant Surge's strategy to use this twice in one turn and get your opponent to put 2 energy attached to their active into their hand. And similarly, you can use Pal Pad to get it back into your deck, and you can use Cynthia and Caitlyn to get this actually back using a supporter directly to your hand. So I'm not saying it's not a good card or it won't be used, because here's the thing. I've just gone on a little bit of a rant for the last few minutes explaining why it's not as good as Team Flare Grunt. And to be clear, it's not as good as Team Flare Grunt the vast majority of the time. But we don't have Team Flare Grunt. Like, it's all very well and good saying it's not as good as Team Flare Grunt. I'll give you another example. Dedenne is not as good as Yuxi. But we don't have that Yuxi. That Yuxi rotated out years ago. We've got to make the best of what we've got. And the fact of the matter is that when it comes to energy denial at the moment, we don't have great options. We've got Crushing Hammer because it was reprinted as a secret rare. Yeah, it literally only survived rotation because it ended up as a secret rare in Ultra Prism. It's a little bit weird, but we still have it, so that's all right. We don't have stuff like Team Flare Grunt, so if you want a supporter card that can get rid of your opponent's energy, this will work. And there will be plenty of times this is really good. Take something like Pikachu and Zekrom. Generally speaking, what they're going to do is they're going to play a Thunder Mountain Prism Star to reduce their energy cost by 1. They're going to play Tapu Koko Prism Star to get 1 energy on, attached from the hand, and use full Blitz, so they've now got 5 energy on them. Thunder Mountain Prism Star down, and so they've essentially got 6 energy. So they're going to be able to use their GX attack for the full effect, Tag Bolt with the 170 to the bench next turn. And you can get rid of Thunder Mountain, but then they can just attach a 6th energy, so it doesn't matter. But if you get rid of Thunder Mountain while putting this energy back into their hand, well, now all of a sudden they're hurt. Of course, one of the biggest cards at the moment is Welder. Welder is absolutely central to our format. And Welder attaches 2 fire energy from your hand and then draws 3 cards. So, if you're using this against a Welder deck, they can just plain reattach the energy. Now, of course, it's not always quite that simple, because you're still potentially undoing a previous Welder. You're still... I mean, look, they were probably going to Welder next turn anyway, so they've still got less energy on the field. It's just difficult to really recommend this too highly. I mean, another great example, one reason I do really like this is Rainbow Energy. Because they can reattach the Rainbow Energy, but they have to take another damage counter. This is really nice for Special Energy, but Special Energy is just not big. Triple Acceleration Energy falls off at the end of the turn, so that's not a thing. Beast Energy could be quite good here. And there's nothing to stop you putting this into their hand and then dropping, say, a reset stamp to put it back into their deck so they cannot just straight away reattach it. Or maybe play some kind of hand disruption like Jesse and James after putting it in their hand to try and discard it, though that is 2 supporters, you will need to use Lieutenant Surge's strategy. But we're just getting a little bit awkward. I suppose the conclusion is this. It is a fairly underwhelming card when directly compared to stuff like Team Flare Grunt that we don't have at the moment. But in terms of, look, we just want a supporter that can help to reduce the amount of energy my opponent has on the field, to try and slow them down, to try and stop them a bit. This is good. And it's going to see play. It's going to see play because we do not have a better alternative. And I think one day we probably will. And certainly in Expanded, we definitely do. But in the standard format, what else have we got in terms of energy denial other than Crushing Hammer? And when you build in cards like Pal Pad, Cynthia and Caitlyn and Lieutenant Surge, you can turn this from an occasional get rid of 1 energy to a really dedicated energy denial strategy. Because you can only play 4 Crushing Hammer in your deck And item cards are really hard to recover, unless you play something like Aura Guru, but what you really want to be doing is blocking with something like the new Wishy Washy, which isn't an option if you're having to attack with Aura Guru. So play stuff like Pidgeotto or Salazzle, use this as your supporter card every turn, and maybe, just maybe, Energy Denial decks can actually be back. Because Crushing Hammer is too awkward to use every turn. We've got enough supporter recovery and enough Pokemon draw at the moment that it is possible to do this every turn. Just a thought. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. It's pretty gosh darned exciting, but I'd like to know what you think about it. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't even have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.